I'm Valet Trailer. Today we're going to be talking about the Trailer Valet Mounting Bracket for your Trailer Valet Dollies. Now you can get this in a couple different variations, but the big benefit to any of these is this is going to be an alternative spot to move your trailer with your dolly. And in some cases, this is going to make things a little bit easier for you. Something to know about this bracket is it's going to be designed to work with frame sizes up to 5 by 8 inches. So that's going to be a pretty broad category of frames that it can work with, and that's one of the benefits of it. Now another benefit of it is going to be just how stable it is. Because when we compare this to using it with your ball, this is going to be a more stable surface. Because that ball has a lot more room to actually rotate and move around in, as compared to this. But another reason why to go with this option rather than your ball is because with some trailers, if they're super heavy, paired up with certain couplers, if you make a really hard turn and there's a lot of weight back here, if this lip is thin enough, it can actually bend that and damage that. So to prevent that, that's where this comes in the hand. And the big thing for me, honestly, is once you get it lowered down and you get this pinhole lined up, it's a pretty easy process to actually install and actually use. Now this mount is going to be compatible with a couple dollies from Trailer Valet, and you can actually check our webpage to see which ones will work and which ones won't. Now when we are using this, you'll notice when I have it mounted on here that we have a fair bit of turning that I can do still. But eventually, where I have mine mounted today, we're going to run out of space right about here. So that might kind of cut down on how hard your turns can be, especially when we compare that to the ball mount option. When we connect it to the actual coupler itself, you're going to have a little bit of a wider turning radius. But so far, I still feel like this is enough to get the job done. And of course, I'm using the hand crank right now, so it's a little bit tougher, and I'm going to up just a slight incline. But going in this direction, I find I have a decent amount of room until I get to this point where that handle wants to almost make contact with the frame of your trailer. This is just stuff to keep in mind. I'd say if you find that you have a decent amount of room on that frame, because today we got a few things blocking us, so we don't have that much space, but if you have a little bit more, I think this will be a good fit. So you saw when I was moving this around, this felt pretty stable the entire time. Now something else about this is you can actually pivot this or swivel this up. In my case, like I was saying, we got a bunch of stuff kind of getting in the way, so we can't pivot up, but I can show you what that process would look like. So you got to pull a pin on the bottom of here and pull that out. And now we can pivot it in a couple different directions. You could try to pivot like this. And you notice I get pretty close to lining up that hole here, but my tires are getting in the way of my trailer. And if I went the other direction, I'd probably make contact with this point here. But when you do go to pivot this and you plan on driving, I wouldn't keep it in this position because we're pretty close to the ground. If anything, I would try to make sure you have it pivoted up like this. Again, we don't have that much space on here, but if I was able to continue turning this would give us much better ground clearance. So definitely keep that in mind. And now, other point I wanted to talk to is the construction of this. So it's going to have a very similar construction to your actual dolly itself. It's going to have that same type of steel, and on top of that, we're going to have that same powder coat on here. It's going to be textured. It feels almost identical to it, and what I like about that is it does a really good job of sitting out in the elements, especially since it's going to be mounted here. And speaking to it being mounted here, why this works with a lot of different trailers is, you'll notice, we have a lot of holes we can choose from. So what happens is these carriage bolts just pass through here, they grab onto these back brackets over here, and they cinch it onto place. You're going to have 4 of them, so it's a pretty easy installation. And something that I found out when using this was my original hardware that comes with the kit, this bolt was a little bit too long. Because you'll notice there's going to be this section here that doesn't have any threads. So if you have a similar size frame to us, you might have to swap out some different hardware to get this to work. So overall, I think this is gonna be a great option for most trailers out there if you got the space on the front of your trailer. So if you have a trailer like we do today, we have a lot of stuff just getting in the way of it from really getting the most out of it. Or if you have a toolbox from preventing this from getting mounted to your frame, then that might be a reason just to stick to using the coupler on your trailer, and it still does a really good job. But if you have that space and you have a couple other trailers too, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get a couple of these, so it'll be more of a smooth transition from moving that dolly from one to another if you need it. Now, of course, if you guys have any other questions, let us know here at eTrailer, and if you do decide to go with this, let us know how it's working for you in either comment or review. But again, I'm Matt, and thanks for watching.